Hi everyone, it's James Matthews from Building and Construction Advisory. I have been reading through APB, so the Association of Professional Builders Latest SORCI Report, which is the State of Residential Construction Industry Annual Report. The 2025 Annual SORCI Report has gone to 2,240 different builders across the US, the Australian, Canadian and New Zealand market. They've interviewed them across basically all facets of their business, construction projects and the like, and they've tabled a whole heap of data. The report is available for download on their website. It's free. It's definitely worth a read. I've been reading it on and off for the last couple of days, and it's got some very interesting statistics, not only about how builders run their companies, but particularly in the projects themselves. One of the numbers in particular showed that Australian residential builders have admitted that their projects run over 25% of the time. Now, most of them are on time, about 60%. So one of the numbers that I found interesting in particular was that the Australian builders, residential builders, it's 25.1% of the time they run over on a project on their program. 60% finish on time and 13.6% finish ahead of time. Now that's pretty alarming. So that's pretty alarming when Australian Bureau of Statistics estimates that it's between 170,000 and 200,000 homes are built every year, with that number to continue and escalate through to 2029. A quarter of those homes are going to run over time. That's massive. So further to that, in Australia, 18% of projects are completed under budget, the residential projects. You've got 49% completed on budget, 28% run over. Now, maybe that's, in part through variations with the client, but 28% of projects run over. That is a huge number. Absolutely huge. If we consider those numbers and statistics, with basically a quarter of them running over time and over cost, we can have a look at Cordell's commercial construction report. Now, noting that residential and commercial are different, but let's just consider those numbers. Cordell's latest report for April has estimated nearly $600 million of works currently going on in the state of Victoria. That's across civil engineering, commercial, community, apartments and units, industrial, 600 million. And potentially a quarter of that is going to run over time and over budget. It's a pretty alarming thing to think about. $150 million of work. That's massive. And I don't think that's necessarily on the builders. We're in a very strange climate. You can look back at a report completed by WT Partnership, which is arguably one of the biggest QS firms in Australia, who in November 24 released a report detailing their opinion that cost escalation was going to be on the rise for building, particularly in Australia. And speaking about Melbourne, that in 2025, costs of building were going to escalate by 4.8%, 4.5% in 26, and then 5% in 27. So that's an average increase of nearly 5% in the next 3 years. How does a builder allow for that? A builder can't take the brunt of those costs, and nor should a developer though, nor should a client. But when you're building, how do you allow for all of that? I think these statistics they're pretty crazy. The development and construction in Australia is only getting harder and harder every other week. It's not sustainable. it's going to only end up being large organisations who are going to be able to raise the capital and the funding to be able to facilitate any development. So realestate.com.au ran an article in January that ASIC records show more than 3,000 builders went insolvent within 2024. Now, from all accounts, that number's set to continue. It's going to make things really difficult for the construction industry, not only for subcontractors who are going to be struggling to find builders to work with, but it's going to be hard for clients to find builders that have capacity to take on their works, to find builders who are capable. And the guys who are left, it's, they're going to be really busy. It's going to, there's every chance that in the next couple of years, the construction industry could go back to becoming a builder's market, where if you want a builder to do your work, you're just going to have to accept their fees and their costs. Now, that's not the best outcome for development. It's not the best outcome for clients and developers, but it's certainly something to think about. We don't want exorbitantly high prices. Everything needs to be a reasonable cost. But if WT are correct and the cost of construction is going up 5% on average per year for the next 3-4 years, what does that mean? The price of money, that's going through the roof. So we've got interest rates at the moment that are, situated around 4.35%. That's set to reduce through December 2025 and reduce further again by mid-26. There's every chance that this is going to have a really positive impact on, the cost of construction within Australia, and hopefully that ends up translating from the cost of money through to the cost of materials, cost of labour, and more development stack up. We do need more construction, more building projects in Melbourne. If interest rates do drop, that's a really positive outcome for the construction market. As everyone knows, there's housing crisis, there's a housing shortage, and housing affordability is an all-time low. It's really difficult for anyone to get into the housing market if you're not already in it. So more housing is a positive. More places of residence is a positive. If the price of money does drop, if the price of construction can stabilise, then this will be a huge positive for developers across Melbourne, who should start to see a lot of their projects stack up. Where a lot of developers have started to look interstate. They've taken a lot of their work elsewhere just because the climate in Melbourne, particularly at the moment, doesn't stack up. We're also hearing that there's a lot of civil contractors who have gone out of work lately because the civil market has started to dry up as well. So there's a lot of cutbacks, not only in the private and public sector, but in the government sector too. It does illustrate a story that construction is becoming more and more difficult in Melbourne, and that is every reason why you need a team of experts, a panel of experts, the best team you can procure of consultants on your project to make sure that it stacks up and that it remains on the right track. It's important to have a superintendent on every project to ensure that the needs of the project are met and maintained. Not to keep the builder in check, but to help the builder tackle any obstacle that maybe sits outside of their remit or their circle of influence. I don't know what all this information means. At the moment, this is all just speculation, interpreting data that's derived from any number of different sources, but putting it together to try and see a clearer picture of what's happening in Melbourne at the moment. I would be interested to hear your thoughts, so please reach out, leave a comment. As always, if you've got any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.